All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast number 3. I have Navneet and Bala with me again. Hey, guys. Hey, friends. So, today we have a very interesting topic, right? So, today, one of the topic which is also very close to my heart, and Bala probably, is something you wanted to talk about more, is the need to have a center of excellence, or do we really need to have a center of excellence within an organization? What are we seeing in the market? Are customers asking us for building or helping them build CoEs within their organizations? What are the advantages of having center of excellence? What are the disadvantages of having center of excellence? Or even we can stretch that discussion and say, do we really need a center of excellence within an organization, or what kind of organizations will benefit from a center of excellence, right? So with that in mind, maybe Bala, question to you, what are you hearing from your customers around the need or want to build a center of excellence? Or is that something organizations like us, we are educating our clients? Do our clients understand that they need center of excellence, and why? Thoughts?
Good question. So, why do we need center of excellence? Because the technology is very new. A lot of people are learning it from like 20 different angles, right? Everybody is teaching them AI. If you go to any company, existing company, not software industry, but I'm talking about like you go to legal or manufacturing or energy or financial industry, their primary business is not software, right? Their primary business is not building on AI. Their primary business is something else, and they need to figure out how effectively and well within the organization to consume AI. So, how do they use AI? This is where center of excellence pretty much comes. Because if your company has like, 500, 10,000, 500,000 employees, I don't think you can go teach everybody at every single time. Not everybody is very keen on knowing AI. Most likely, like 20, 30% of the company will be very excited to learn AI. The others might just know through the news media or whatever they're hearing from all these social media and things like that, right? Or the podcasts. But the point is like if you're running a company, do you want to expand and grow your AI portfolio within the company? That could be an existing employee using the AI, or you're applying it to a certain product, you're building AI products, or you're infusing AI products into your existing products. It could be, you can think of like how AI can generate revenue. Um, it could be productivity or it could be new products, right? You build new products, you go into new markets and you make money. So if you want to build those capabilities across an entire industry, how do you make everybody comfortable and everybody guide them into into that AI world? It could be agentic AI, it could be Gen AI, or it could be for that matter data science or machine learning. Whatever the AI might be, you have to have a team who can understand all these variants and varieties, whatever is available, and focus them exactly to what the company is needed. A lot of people, what we usually do, I mean, definitely in the IT, is like we just go buy a product off the shelf and we just consume it mostly, or we just customize it. That's what has happened in Salesforce and SAPs of the world. What nobody has thought about is like when they bought these softwares, they end up in a cyclic loop of customizing forever, right? There is no way that you can go and say like, oh, this project is done in SAP and that's it. There is always something going on. That is the reason why the build was very successful in the logical world. But given this AI world, the question is like, it's from the scratch. You have to understand, right? The fundamental itself is non-deterministic. It's not deterministic anymore. So you have to have a different way of thinking. And in this era, that what I'm seeing now is like, if the if the language models and the coding model can write better code. Now the question is, do you need all these big companies to write code and sell softwares? And into a few people inside a company can rebuild a full-fledged ERP in weeks or couple of weeks, right? So to build that muscle and to change, and given also the AI is going to touch all part of the business. It's not just the software, it's not just the IT. You're going to see it in marketing, sales, and all the business units are going to get hit. So Center of Excellence is the means to go educate the people inside the company, bring them on board, and make sure that the company is moving to the next level. That's where I see why Center of Excellence is very important. You might not need it in a software company who's an AI first company, a company who's just started, and if they're starting from scratch and they have all AI developers, you don't need it. But when you start becoming an actual company, like you start having customer care, sales, support, you're not going to have software engineers working there. You're going to have different disciplines and different mindset and different engineering principles people working over there. So you need a place where you can organize all those, come up with your standard, the process, the responsible AI practices, set everything up, and ability to take the company in that direction. That is what COE plays a lot of role on.
Fair point. Abneet, what do you think
Yeah,
about it?
no, I think the way I see that it's a the question is probably slightly bigger. And maybe Bala, what you're saying is the way I see that is it's really the AI strategy. An organization, no matter how big or small they are, they need to have an AI strategy because AI has been growing and it's kind of organically and or inorganically in organizations or even on the private life, like people are adopting it. Now, for organization, if it is left without a control, left without really having a strategy or some kind of a vision or goal, it will be very difficult to really know where it is going to help, where it is going to harm, and how effective it will be as a whole organization. The, if you remember that in the past, we like last session we talked about the AI tools, broadly speaking, if you think about it comes in the two categories. One, as an individual employee productivity increase. Productivity also comes with the quality. Now, the other is at the organization level, how the organization productivity increase. Definitely individual productivity increase, push that, but there is a different organization level of the tools. Now, for both of them, there needs to have some strategy that how do you basically like cross train, up train the resources, as well as said, right? Today, it is not unthinkable to think about some of the legacy platforms. Some smart guys, 4 or 5 people sitting together there, can completely build in couple of weeks, which earlier was unthinkable. Like you need like army of the people and many months or years to do that part. That means the options are all of a sudden there's a lot more options. So do you really go there and start doing that first? Or do you go and start looking for the new revenue stream, new product? Do you start first uplifting your resources, looking for like what kind of assistance training they needed, where you need agents to kind of start picking up the work? All of those things is like fundamentally the same questions pretty much every organization to different degree they need to answer. And that's where I see that, okay, that AI strategy comes in place. As part of the AI strategy, when it comes implementation, training, right, and prioritizations, all of the like maybe we call it as COE, but COE is part of that AI strategy. That's how kind of I was in thinking when Bala was talking about this
Yeah.
one. What do you think?
No, very true, very true. I think, from a practical point of view, when we are working with an organization, I think for me, the AI strategy or the center of excellence means pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But we'll take a step back, in my opinion, and understand why we need to have a center of excellence, right? Like the why question is the technology, the people, the operating model, the decision tree today that takes care of traditional data and AI projects, are they sufficient, right? Can the speed in which the AI, the agentic and the Gen AI journey has been taken, or the kind of tools and technologies that we have, the kind of democratization that we are seeing in the tools and technologies, or the decision to support a particular project based on its risk or assessment, are they going to be done by the same team that can handle the traditional data and AI? So in my opinion, it cannot be, right? The traditional data and AI was very classical in nature. It was very SDLC oriented. There were very standard methodologies and tools that were used to solve a particular problem. So in today's day and age, when we are talking about Gen AI and agentic AI, questions becomes, can we evaluate those tools? Can we evaluate those technologies? Can we upskill people? Can we understand? You talked about responsible AI and all. Can those be done by the same group of people, right? In my opinion, they cannot be. So you need to have a different structure, that structure which is led by somebody who has the decision-making skill. So a lot of time, I think the COE that we talk about, it's obviously technology driven, but it is all about change management. Do we have a separate organization within our organization, which is led by somebody? Again, in our company, we call it chief AI officer, right? I mean, again, your company, you might be calling it somebody else, but create a separate entity led by a person who owns that responsibility. And that person will define, design, and sort of propagate the AI strategy. So within that group of people, you can take responsibilities like proof of technology, right? Like if I'm evaluating models, which models are approved to be used by the organizations? If I'm talking about technology, which technologies are okay? If I have vendors, which vendors I'm working with as an organization, right? So these are technology decisions that we probably need to be taken as in an organizational level, and then it can be propagated. So in my mind, the COE is all about having that group,
The focused
the
group.
group which is led by a person who can make decision.
Yeah.
And that person will propagate and make, like you can actually make a conscious decision of what is your AI strategy.
Yeah.
Now, the only difference is, can we combine them together? Can we combine them together with the previous the COEs? I think that's where the question lies. And in my opinion, no. The previous typical data and AI, they were too legacy. They cannot change. They do not have the right people at the right places. And there are different kinds of roles now. Responsible AI being one, change management being another, vendor management being another, model selection being another, risk and scoring being another. So I think that COE plays a role. Now, how that COE needs to be set up in different kinds of organizations, that will differ.
But there's another side of the equation. Like right now, we are in a transition phase where we are talking AI or today's AI versus legacy platforms or legacy AIs. But that transition is, in my mind, is a short-lived.
True.
Like there's no, it's not like going, they both has to exist. Everything, I think, in a very near future, it will become
True.
the AI first means that's the only way to do. Like any applications, I am assuming in the next maybe in a year or so, will not be built without thinking about the AI.
True.
That means you can't really have a separation. You
True.
can't say that this decision making is a different because that SDLC was based on the legacy and this one is a different. I foresee that there will be a lot of principles which we established earlier that needs to be relooked at it with the AI in the mind. That means
100%.
in the transition phase, maybe a group of people, what we call as a COE or the AI strategy, take the lead, but that is not for AI driven initiatives only. That's for the whole organization with the mindset that okay, not everything can change. So
Yeah.
you basically go the step approach or some kind of a transition plan, right?
I think it has happened in the past, right? I mean, if you look into our organization, we started off with Center of Excellence for Gen AI, and we propagated to Center of Excellence for Advanced AI, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think the concept of COE will expand, shrink, grow, but you still need to have or a recognized body that makes decisions for the organization, which the other people adhere to.
But
Otherwise, it becomes a little bit of a wild, wild west.
absolutely agree. But I'm saying for how long, right?
That's a
Because
good
you
question.
need to always, in my mind, right? Okay, this one maybe in the beginning there is a two like the
Correct.
legacy and everything,
Correct.
and there's a one small group of the people who will take the lead on trying to create the path forward.
Hmm.
But it has to converge somewhere.
Yes, converge
So,
somewhere. Yeah.
so center of excellences are usually between 2 to 5 years time frame. Um, and then that's it. Then you keep evolving with the new technology that is coming in, right? So that's how
There are
you
some
always have to. That's why
And
it's part of strategy. So
correct. And sometimes it automatically dissolves, right? In the
yeah,
sense, like if you're
Yeah.
talking about traditional data engineering teams, data engineering, there are so many applications within an organization that has gone into production now.
Yeah.
Probably that becomes a very standard practice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you do
Yeah.
not have to
I
reinvent the wheel
think
now.
so. There is a
So
so there's another question that we always have to think is like we always have thought this through in the traditional IT sense, traditional software sense.
Yeah.
Now we are not thinking about like what that AI sense is gonna be, right?
Yeah.
If AI is writing code, most of these human processes that we have built to drive this economy, is that even needed?
true.
Or will that change? The human will become not an executioner. The humans will be just observe and reporting and management type work is what will be available for us, right?
But is that not a decision that the COE should make, Bala? Like again, is that now not becoming a decision that, I mean, if you do not have a
Eventually, right? You have to look at COE in terms of how the AI is getting infused in the existing software base. And
true,
then if if the models can write really look at it in a different, I'm going to throw out a different angle to you, right?
true, true. But I'm saying like taking a step back, right? Like you put out a very valid point. My question is, an organization has to decide whether they are comfortable to have an AI agent write production grade code, and if that production grade code can go into production without any human evaluation to an automatic evaluation, or whether we need to have human in the middle. So that decision has to be made by somebody, right? Again,
True.
both the decisions are correct, but I'm saying every organization will make a decision on their own whether they want to infuse people in the middle or make it fully automated. But that decision has to be made by somebody. Is that not
So
what CEO is
so you're
organized
making
like?
a good point, right? I mean, I don't think that you have to put a human for sure, right? In between. The question is where is the question,
More than the
right?
where, like who makes a decision to go fully automated or not automated? Is that,
Not
are
even
these
that.
the kind of
Even
decisions
if you're
the CEO is going
building
to go?
even if you're building a process, you have to figure out where you're going to put the humans first. Because take an example. Like, I mean, you guys have been in the software industry, right? So we take a project and we say like, okay, we wanted to tackle this X use case. Okay. Now what we'll do, we have to find resources, right? You have to budget it first, and you'll say like, okay, Bala, I need $5 million for this, and I need like 10 people working on it, right? This
Yes.
is the traditional approach that we have done for every single thing. Now that 10 people will become 2 people. So you're only putting a human in the loop in the sense it's like just in one place, right? The
True.
human in the loop in CI/CD, yeah, after you test in the release management, you will put one person to look at it and say yes, this is good or bad and things like that. But the 50 developers that are doing, you don't need them, right? I mean, you do need them, but in a very small quantity is what you need. So the the way of we look at the organization itself will change. It
True.
won't be like organization, one task a human is gonna do. I mean, we have been very monolithic about a single human can only do just one task. And especially if you're a software driven business, you pretty much 90% of your workforce is software engineers. What will
I,
that happen?
I think the question is probably slightly bigger because we are trying to focus on the software development life cycles and COEs for that decision making. The think about it, if the software can be written in an autonomous or semi-autonomous manner with the agents, the business process can also change equally easy or even more easier in
Right.
some aspects, right?
Right.
So this is not just the COE for the technology selection. It is really the transition from the current way of working and
Two
AI
different things.
way of
Yeah. So,
working.
so
And in
yeah,
that world, right, for this transition, there are different group of people who is really needed,
very true.
right? So yes, technology people who understand the technology, who understand the capability and the risk and the reward, that is definitely needed there. But equally important needed is the organization culture shift. How do we shift the culture of the organization? How do we move from where we are to the new level? And as Bala, you rightly pointed that in the new place, does everyone is really for that a given organization is really needed? This is a very big ethical question to answer. That not every organization will be capable of expanding their work like
Yeah.
the footprint to have every place for everyone. What will the people do at that point of time, right?
Right.
And how does the organization go? Like you cannot just
So
take the whole
yeah,
tree at the same time.
so is that not a change management, which is also part of COE? Is that not the responsibility of the Center of Excellence, which is again beyond just being
It is,
technology?
it,
It's
Nine,
a
you're
one
absolutely
level of
right. It is
it's one
change
level of
management, but the people who are in the change management first has to understand
Of
what this
course.
change is. Because see, when I have this, I've seen this in a problem. Like everybody thinks that it is just a change management, and then they throw it into the PMO office and they say like, okay, now I'm going to train you. You guys go do it because they themselves don't know what that change is, and they are struggling themselves.
But
So
see
it's
is that not the point? Because when we talk about Center of Excellence now, again, 5 years later, things will change. People do not know how that change management will work for business process automation.
exactly.
That's the reason you need very specialized group of people who are not available till now, right? Traditional software development, traditional data and AI projects didn't see that kind of change management needed. Now we are finding those change management guys. So not everybody has that skill. You have very small number of skilled people who understand change management from business process automation. You bring them into the COE and they will guide that initial set of changes within the organization till it becomes a new normal for them, right?
I think we're saying the same thing, but in a different terminology we are
Yeah,
using,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because what I call is the transition team. You're calling it a COE.
Correct,
And in my mind, the transition team was a multifaceted team.
correct.
There are people who are from the like top executive level. There are
Yes,
people from the business, really purely understanding the
yes,
business,
yes,
marketing, legal aspects. There are
hundred
people who are
percent.
technology, and that whole team really decides
Yeah,
what should be the new world look like for that
mhm,
organization, right?
correct.
So I think that's what you're calling
That's
COE because
yes,
the
yes.
traditional
And it has to be head
terminology,
by somebody. It's
of course,
not like it cannot be like everybody has their own plus ones in there. This becomes a
exactly,
dedicated
because that
org structure.
right, this is
And it
probably
has
the
to be a
missing sauce.
self-motivated, self-driven team.
More than that,
I
it has
think
to be
That's
a
the
it's
main
a, it
key.
has to be role driven, right? It cannot be a plus one. It
I
cannot be like,
I
oh, you used to do a change management for
I,
SDLC, now just do a plus
no,
one for them.
I think this one has to have the power to
Yes.
make the significant change. No other team will have that much power.
No, it has to be a
Because
named role.
with the example we were talking about, like 10 becomes 2, that is we haven't seen that kind of
No,
in our life cycle, right? So that kind of decision making is not technology decision.
no,
That is not just
yeah,
like business decision. That's basically your top of the executive
true.
decisions, right? So that team, when
Now
we
the
talk,
other, if you take the other side of it, if you take the software side of the spectrum, if you bring in the regular business users, their decision making capability is fast track now,
Yeah.
because they are always dependent on softwares to take decision making, and they can now build their own software or tools, whatever they want, in a much more faster way because you have like byte coding these days. There are systems that you can just explain and it'll build an entire system in the back end. You don't even need a software engineer, right? So so usually in a sales or marketing, like if I wanted to find out like, okay, where am I going to put my focus on for the next 3 months, I have to spend a considerable amount of time to say like, okay, let me look at different customer portfolio, how they are performing, what's in the pipeline. There are a lot of metrics that we need to go look at it, right? And I,
yeah,
I have to rely on certain tools that I have, and that's a huge manual labor. Now I can have this automated task by with AI to build those things for me, and I have my answer in like few minutes, right?
But Bala, the
How will
question
you
is,
cater now? How
but
will you cater for those folks? Like that could be marketing,
again,
finance, customer care, sales,
true.
some
But my
HR.
yeah, but my question remains same, right? My question is, we can provide those tools to the hands of business, HR, and everybody. But who decides which tools are approved? Who decides what
Not
data
only
is
that, I
approved?
mean, you also have to
Who
find out which
decides?
tool to use too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
might be,
Which tools?
yeah,
But I'm saying we cannot give that decision to the hands of business saying, hey,
I,
like
I,
AI has the power, but do we give you guys
I
that
think
power?
those are lower level of detailing and decisioning. There is a much higher level of decision to be made before even that. It's given there are tools. Now, which tool, what's the risk? Those can be now or maybe in another 6 months. It can be it's an easier task than it sounds today, right? That okay, which is the one stop shop or maybe multi stop shops, like where what are the tools, technologies at level, right? Any consultancy firm, any vendors can be brought in for any organization to help them decide that part. And people are understanding that's needed. What the individual organization has really their own core strength and what's the level of change they can adopt pace. That is something with what this team can really help or empower themselves. Because if they are making low level decisioning only, then they're missing the point. The bigger point is like, okay,
Yeah.
what are you really going to do it? I mean, it's not about business versus technology versus HR anymore. It is basically a person in the organization is now more capable than they were ever because of
Correct.
the agents, right? So now
right.
they can apply like 10 agents, 20 agents, need based, right? So does everyone needs to be trained that way, right? Like all of a sudden it feels like, okay, the people who has more kind of breadth of the knowledge becomes more powerful because on the depth they can apply the agents, right? That means all of a sudden your all the any organization has a pyramid, right? So the bottom level of the people, what will they do? They don't have the breadth to see the whole end-to-end process. What are they going to do, right? Those are the decisioning which need to happen, and whether we call it the COE or transition team, they need to look at that aspect. Like, are you going to upskill them? Are you looking for something else for them, right? Then the tools and technology comes next because it has proven beyond doubt that it is going to stay. It is not going to go away. It is not as like a passing phase. That means at what pace you want to adopt. And it's not the question of like, okay, should we or should we not? That's probably that question has passed. That's my thinking. What do you
True.
think, Bala?
No, I think it's a great point to have our last question round. So let's talk about, we'll bulletize it, right? Let's go and talk about all three of us. We'll count in fingers. What should be the COE's responsibilities? So Bala, go first. What are the kind of, you talked about some, we'll go around. Let's talk about, we talked about why CEO, why not CEO, what are the depth and breadth. So let's count, right? I mean, if somebody says we want to define a CEO, what roles and what responsibilities that the CEO should have? I think CEO should have, right? COE should have. That'll be a great question to probably understand, right? Bala, you want to start it
So
out?
culture is one very important thing. Um, and then the responsible AI piece of it, the governance piece of it, um, because I mean, any new technology will introduce new threats, right? I'm not going to
Yes.
say like everything is always perfect. Science is always good and bad. So how do you mitigate those? And then change management is part of the cultural culture pretty much.
Yes.
I mean, I would say culture, responsible AI, and governance are the most important one to start with. And then, I mean, we have a deck. I mean, I mean, you and I have worked on it, so we can share a lot more details.
What about you? Anything else?
I think in my mind, I just keep on saying like it is all about the pace of the transition.
So is
And
that also change management or something
I
else?
think everything is a change, right?
Mhm.
So I'm basically saying is like it's all about I think the technology decisioning is least important in that.
Yeah. So yeah,
decision.
yeah, of course, yeah,
So
yeah.
in
But I'm
my
saying what should be those important?
so in my mind, the most important thing is really to deciding that transition, like what is that transition really means for
Mhm.
the organization. The human capital is the most important thing. Starting from there, that how do you see the human capital in tomorrow's world? How do you see your organization in tomorrow's world? Then the technology will fit it. Technology has proven the capability.
Yeah.
So don't just start with the technology. I think in my mind, start with the bigger picture.
So again, same thing, right? Without prioritizing, I would say exactly to your point. But I would say, technology selection should be one of those responsibilities of COE. I would say, again,
Skilling, skilling.
training, scaling. Uh, we use the term called proof of technology, right? I mean, again, people are talking about proof of concept, but
Mhm.
before proof of concept, we talk about proof of technology, which means we go and talk to 20 different vendors. We evaluate those vendors and we decide which vendors should be part of our ecosystem. Like when we start putting those technology in our landscape, right, at least for the next 6 months. So those are the responsibilities of a COE. You talked about, the business process automation. So involving business, the right business people should be part of that COE. I think you talked about responsible AI. I'll go one level deeper and say data strategy. What kind of data in the modern world, right? Not only those analytical structured data, but we talk about all those SOR, system of records, right now, which are also coming up. Those kind of integration patterns, who should use what kind of patterns, what kind of, again, from our baseline point of view, we talk about landing zones, right? Like
Yeah.
the security set up saying like, oh, people cannot just come in and start doing POCs.
Yeah.
They should ensure that whenever they do POCs, our data is not now proliferated to the internet, right?
Yeah.
So I think those are all the things that should be within the range of COE. Now, to your point, when we are drawing that importance map and say which one is priority, I agree. Like probably that adoption and what comes next, or how do we retrain people? How much percentage of people are we comfortable with the FT reduction, right? In terms of
Mhm.
how much automation is good at automation. And I think those will change from organization to organization based on their maturity and kind of business that they do. But in my mind, those will be, if I have to draw a boundary, those will be the things within that boundary.
Yeah. No,
Agree.
I think that's interesting. Yeah. We
Good.
I don't think we are saying many different things,
Yes,
but it's just a different perspective or
very
different
true.
pieces we are putting different level of importance. But I think we all are agreeing that it something of that sort is needed. And without that, the organization will not be having the structured way to move from where they are and where they need to move. And the question is no more that should they move or not. The question is like how.
Very true.
Right.
Very true. So with that, we will wrap up podcast number 3. Thank you guys all for joining in. You have been asking lovely questions, and some of these questions are making us think about a lot of this. And we are trying to bring in these topics, which are not easy to sort of just talk about, right? Because these are moving parts.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking these questions and stay tuned for the next podcast.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.